This is problem 7-26 in section 7.1.2 homework. It's talking about Hilda completing the square to change her equation from standard form into graphing form, and she's finding the vertex, but it was incorrect. So that means her equation is most likely incorrect. So what we're going to do is, sometimes it's hard to follow these steps written down, because what we did to complete the square was we actually used the generic rectangle, and I think that's a lot easier method to see. So what I think I'm going to do is actually go ahead and just solve this and see if we can figure out where her mistake is as we're solving it. So first thing is we have y equals 3x squared, that's your equation, minus 24x plus 55. So what we learned in class, or we've seen in homework a lot, is we don't want this to be a value that besides 1. So what we can do is we can factor out just a 3 from the first two terms and leave that 55 alone. So if I factor out a 3, I'll be left with x squared minus 8x, and I'm going to just have my plus 55 hanging out over there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on completing the square for just this part inside the parentheses. So we're going to hold off on other things for right now. And what we did to complete the square was we drew our rectangle, which is actually going to be a square this time. And we're going to put in our x squared term. This is when we split up the middle term equally. So we have negative 4x and negative 4x. Okay? So what we found then is with the actually outsides of our square, the product of our square. So we're trying to make it be a square, which means the sides need to both be exactly the same. So now our sides are x minus 4 times x minus 4. So inside the box, it should be in this top corner right here. This should be, if I multiply negative 4 times negative 4, I get a positive 16. But in my problem, in this parentheses right here, I have no constant terms. I could really add a little plus 0 if I want in the end. I have a plus 0, no unit tiles. So I have been writing it as we have 0. I'm trying to get to 16, so I need to add 16 on this side. Okay? But remember, if I do something on one side, I need to do that on the other side. So I'm really adding 16 into here. I had 0, I need to make it a perfect square. Now I have a perfect square. And on the right side, this is the question. Do I just add 16, or do I add 3 times 16, since that 3 is on the outside of the parentheses? So that is what I'm going to do. I'm really going to add 3 times that 16 units. 3 times 16, which is going to give me a 48. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is write y equals, instead of 3 times 16, I'll write plus 48. And I still have that 3 in the front. I still have this 3 I factored out. That still needs to be in my answer. Times, instead of writing it as a sum, which this is a sum, it's my rectangle, my square is a sum, I want it to be the product, which is just length times width. So I have x minus 4. Since I have 2 of them, I can just write it squared. Then I have my plus 55 on the end. Okay, so if we look at our steps, we are kind of at this step a little bit, except now we can see what's different. Hilda added, she's going to end up adding 16, and we should have added 48 on this side. So to get rid of this 48, I need to subtract it. So I'm going to subtract that from my 55. So really I will have a plus 7 over here. So what they did in the steps above, right, they kind of did this in one step. We right here subtracted our 48. So they kind of went from row number 2 to row number 3 in one step, which is a lot going on. So we, instead of adding 16 and then subtracting it over, like Hilda did, she should have added 48 and then subtracted it over, like we did, because it was 3 times that stuff. This 3 being factored out means I need to add 3 times whatever unit tiles I added in. Okay, so here is my completed form, my completed graphing form. And so now I can look at this and find the vertex. The vertex is always going to be the opposite of the number with the x. So instead of -4, it'll be a +4. And my second number stays the same. So 4, 7 is my vertex. So we can see Hilda was incorrect, which she knew she was incorrect, but where she went wrong was instead of having this -16, she should have ended up subtracting 48 from both sides because of our factored out 3. Okay? If you're not sure how to finish this problem, or you're so confused, make sure you ask your teacher in class. This was definitely on, I believe it was on the honors team test last chapter. So this could show up again, even though it hasn't been a specific concept. It's been in a lot of homework problems, and hopefully we should know how to complete the square now. If it's not a 1x squared, if it's a 3x squared or a 2x squared, we can factor out that number first.